Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab. We're very fortunate today in the fact that we've got Andy Mack from Akai, who's come down to show us the MPC Renaissance, which is basically the latest, the newest MPC hardware from Akai. Andy is a bit of a, well, I'd say a bit of a demon on the MPC, been using MPC for years, right?
Many years, yeah, about 20 years now probably. So know my way around it just a little bit.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is Andy's just going to play a little bit of stuff at the beginning, then we're going to ask some questions about the unit. So take it away, Andy.
Cool, okay.
Andy, thanks very much. I mean, the first thing to get out of the way really is, what is the MPC Renaissance?
Okay, well, the MPC Renaissance is basically taking all the MPCs that we've created since 1988 and making them into one perfect MPC that will now integrate inside the computer, because the workflow has been classic for so many years. So, you know, you've got 25 years of hit records. There was never anything wrong with the workflow, and that never needed to be changed. And there's obviously a lot of people that have tried to imitate what we do, but they've always lacked a hell of a lot of the key features. So what we've done, we've looked at every device, we've worked out what all the selling features were, what everybody loved about them, and integrated it into one superior controller, and then gave you that inside the software domain, which can now integrate with everything inside your laptop.
So this is essentially a hardware controller and sound device and MIDI interface sort of combined in the MPC workflow mold, right?
Yeah, it's a full workstation, which obviously integrates with your Mac or PC.
And you haven't just been shooting in the dark, right? I mean, I know there's
no.
been quite a lot of consultation with some heavyweight MPC users, right? So how did that, explain that a little bit?
Well, obviously, the first thing we needed to do was actually go to the heart of the MPC users around the world. So we went to the top producers around the world. We started in New York and Atlanta. We went to people like Teddy Riley, Brian Michael Cox, DJ Quick. There was many heavyweights in the States, and then we moved it all to London, and we got a lot of input from people like Fraser T. Smith. There was Pete Boxter Martin, Alan Sampson, all these guys.
So a lot of
top of their game. And they kind of told us all the things that they liked and they disliked about the kind of the computer, what they loved about the original workflow, and how they would like it to continue inside the box.
Okay, so take me through the front panel and show me what it's got.
Okay, well, as you can see by the colour, it has that classic Akai look, the classic cream from the 60 and the 3000, and all of our old S1000 samplers from back in the day. So what we've added the MPC 3000 transport control, same as what's on the 60. It just has that nice flow when you're kind of stopping, starting, you're cutting in tracks, and you can literally just work so fast from it. The pads as well, we've got absolutely fantastic pads. The feel of these pads are just like nothing I've ever felt before. They really do feel so good.
And backlit as well.
Yeah, backlit, so you've got the pressure sensitive, so you can see all the different levels of velocity as well. And when you're using the step sequencer, it becomes quite important because they're color coded. Now on the left-hand side, we've got the 16 Q links. Now these really are the heart of the MPC Renaissance because they interact with all your plugins, all your virtual instruments, your layering of drums, volume, panning, everything. So you'll be using these full on all the time. And obviously, as you can see, they move to left to right, full 360 rotation, and they're all touch sensitive as well.
Ah, right, so you could just bring up the parameter.
That's right.
I don't think I've ever seen touch
sensitive
rotor encoders before.
And then we've got our classic features. We've got full level, so it will give you full velocity on each pad. 16 levels, as you know, where we can take either the velocity and put it across the 16 pads, or we can change that to tuning and it will tune the sample across the pads, or you can choose filters or layering. So you can do a lot of interactive things with the 16 levels. But again, it's been classic on all the MPCs. You've got step sequencer that takes you into step sequence mode. So if you want to start working by using the pads, you can. And then we have next track and track mute again, very important for live. So you can just simply mute the pads that you want to turn off at the time. We've added 8 banks this time. On most of the other MPCs, it was always 4 banks of pads. So now we give you 16 samples across 8 banks, which gives you 128 samples per program, but you can actually load up to 128 programs. Most other people can only do 1. So it gives you an awful lot of power from that sense. Then also on the hardware, we have a digital I/O on there, which gives us inputs and outputs.
It's USB audio I/O, right?
That's right. This gives us mic inputs, turntable inputs, line level inputs. If we simply want to sample straight from CD or from vinyl, which nowadays is actually quite a task to do from the old ways of sampling, we can simply just take our inputs, put it into shift, sample record, and I'm away. Just hit record and I have my sample inside the MPC. Which again, I don't need to ever look at the software. If I sample something, I can see my WAV file on the screen. I can control it from the Q links here and have access to all my editing parameters.
That's not. It's funny, isn't it? Because sampling used to be so instinctive to hardware. Now actually, it's kind of like, oh, I need to prime a track on my DAW, then I need to grab the sample, put it in. It's like, so that's quite.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really was important, because when you use the Renaissance, it feels like you're using a standalone instrument, but it's actually using all the power from the computer. So you can do all these amazing things, time stretching, we can change all the parameters of the samples just by using the controller, but it's all driven from here.
And how many I/O? We've got 2?
4 separate outs as well. So if some of you guys are still using, some of the API outboard, you can still process your drums that way, then bring them back in and resample them, which a lot of people are still going to do. Even though plugins are at an incredible level, you've still got these guys that spend a lot of money on outboard. But also what we have, which is so useful, is 2 USB hub ports. So as you can see, I've got my controller keyboard hooked up straight to the Renaissance. It powers it for me, and now I can actually use this to play all my keyboard parts via my virtual instruments. But I can also cascade a hard drive onto it as well, go to my browser and access all my 500 gigs worth of library and pull it straight into the MPC. So this is such a useful addition to the controller to have 2 USB hub ports, as we all run out of them from time to time.
Particularly on Macs, which have only got 2 anyway.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
And going back to talking about outboard and sound, one of the main things that's on the Renaissance is the vintage mode. So when you're playing your drums, you can physically go, okay, I want to create the old school sound of how the 3000 was or the 60 was, and I can simply press the vintage mode and it will give me the same emulated sound of that particular sampler.
So this emulation system,
yes,
this is hardware, right?
It's hardware and software. So we've modelled the characteristics of the 3000 and the 60, okay, and the other will do classic drum machines such as the SP1200. And this is all combined with obviously the hot inputs and outputs of the I/O. And when you combine all 3 together, you do get one serious sound coming out. I was
wondering about that. Does that happen purely on hardware output, or when you bounce, do you get that on the WAV files that you create your sort of final mixes from as well?
Because all the sound is generated inside a computer, so it's triggering all your samples, the software is giving you the emulation of the actual MPC, but the outputs also are very hot. So if you really do want to start using a lot of outboard, you would use it the conventional way of like tracking your sounds, but also you can stem everything inside with the same characteristics.
Oh, right, okay, cool. So we've got the actual hardware interface. Is it possible, I notice we've got a keyboard here, is it possible to integrate a sort of wider MIDI rig into the whole system?
Yeah, one of the main things with the classic MPCs is everybody would drive their MIDI from the sequencer because of the timing. So what we wanted to make sure we did was give you both alternatives. So if you hook up a controller keyboard, you notice we've got 4 MIDI outs on the back. So I can actually hook up all my external modules in the studio, but I can also go to my software and go, okay, I'm going to take it out of MPC mode where my drums are, and put it into plugin mode. So when I put it into plugin mode, I can now effectively choose any of my plugins that I have inside the computer. So I can now integrate my performances with my whole production beat making and create a whole track inside the MPC software.
So that's so does the transport control the DAW or control the plugin within the DAW, or are they both linked when you're working that way?
The transport control, if you're running inside Logic, you would just literally just change your key commands. So this would then become the controller inside Logic. If you're running it standalone independently, it's its own built-in software. Like I said, you never need to come out of the software at all until you really want to start doing vocals.
Okay, I'm just thinking of, so you integrate, you're doing all your beats and sampling inside the MPC plugin inside the host, but then maybe you want to go to a track on Logic or whatever your DAW is, you can still use this as the centerpiece for that.
That's right, you got it. Yeah.
Okay. And I noticed there you were saying you can call up external VSTs and plugins.
Yeah.
How does the communication, because I mean, a lots of things you don't get bi-directional communication. Does that work in the right way there?
It does, because everything I see on the computer, I see on the screen. So if we take, for instance, a drum track, so we'll take a snare, and what I can do with that snare drum, we can now go to effects, and I now have the option to put up to 4 different plugins on my one pad. So I can take my pad here and I can now go through all my list of plugins. I have UAD card here, we have wave plugins, we have everything to choose from, and I can apply up to 4 of those per pad. So if I really do want to start treating my drums in a really sophisticated way, it gives me the ability to do that. So I can just pull up the plugin, and now I've got full control over the parameters, which I can see on the screen here or directly on the computer. And again, like you see, I can do that 4 times. I can go, okay, there's another plugin there, another plugin there, and another plugin there. So I now have 4 plugins running on that one pad.
And what about in terms of busing and grouping? Is there the possibility to do that too?
What's really cool, when you program your drums, if you're more into bussing your drums together, what we can do it via track or via program. So we can take the whole program with all our drums on and put up to 4 plugins on the whole program.
Well, that's kind of old classic Akai OS sort of style,
completely. Or I can do it per track. So if I've got a particular track with a certain kind of old school sample on, I can affect that one track with 4 different types of plugins, which will separate it from my drum bus. I've also got 4 auxiliaries per pad as well, and I've also got submix. I've got 8 submixes out for my drums, and I've also got a further 4 master effects for the back end of the mix as well.
And that's interesting, because I mean, obviously with less outputs, but with this amount of routing, is it possible to then easily bounce discrete stems out of that? Or?
Yeah. So once I finish my track, what I can then do is take the whole arrangement, go to my file, go to export, audio mix down, and I now have my whole audio mixed down on separate tracks. I can select the file format that I want to use, select the bit rate, sample rate, and then how long I want the stems to be. So if I only want the first 4 bars, then great. And then it will export it straight out, and then I can pull it up inside Pro Tools or Logic.
Great for taking it out on the road as well,
yeah.
So there's a massive legacy of Akai samples.
Yeah.
What is it? Does it come with a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, it comes with 8 gigs worth of library. It comes with virtual instruments as well. So we give you 4 different virtual instruments. We give you the bank, which is a generic set of sounds, piano strings. We then give you one called the wob, which is like dirty bass sounds. You then get the 809, which is a replica of the classic drum machines. And then you get one called the noise, which gives you a lot of kind of pad effects and stuff for layering over the top of your tracks.
And what about reading kind of legacy library stuff in there? Because that was always the thing for me, is like, I've got this Akai stuff and I can't get it in anywhere else without weird...
It comes with all the library anyway, all inside. So it will give you, we give you the 60, the 3000, the 2500, the 500, all the classic libraries are in there, but it will read all the other formats as well, from the 60 through to the 5000.
And what about third-party stuff? Like, can you bring ESX24 in, or
you can bring in REX files, AIFF, WAV files, and obviously we're going to be supporting a lot more other file formats in the near future.
And that's the thing. I mean, I guess obviously people buying into something that's software based.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that you kind of separate the two, but then, you know, what's happening in the, what's the roadmap? What's the kind of the development cycle likely to be for more stuff happening on the platform?
Well, the thing is, we are always reading what the users want, and you know, the software can move in any direction we want it to. We just brought our new update, which is 1.1, which was literally about 2-3 days ago, which brought in RTAS format for running all your plugins and running it inside Pro Tools. So we're always going to be bringing updates out all the time. So it's never going to be a situation where we can't support this or can't support that, because it's software based.
So there's a commitment, you know, that's the thing that people want to know. They're buying into a sort of platform. It's like, you know, is there going to be ongoing development?
No, there will be, because this will change people's workflow. It's changed mine. It's changed, you know, all the producers we've been working with around the world, hence how this came about. And it will change everybody's workflow when they see how this integrates with their current system, because you can run it as a standalone system. It integrates with everything inside your studio. And when you use the MPC, you are using an instrument. You're not just using a piece of hardware. It does feel like you're actually creating magic on it. And that is why, again, so many hit records have been made on them.
If I'm not an MPC user, I don't have any knowledge of the MPC workflow. There are alternatives out there, obviously. You know, there's Machina, there's the Arturia stuff. I mean, what is it about the MPC way of doing things that is going to sell it to me? You know, what is it that I'm going to kind of hook me in?
Basically, you know, there's a few things. A is the history. You know, there's a history there of the workflow, the swing, the quantizing, the time divisions. There's all these things that everyone has tried to emulate and put on their devices, and they've always tried to design what we already have. And all we needed to do was make sure that whole workflow was moved from here into there, but they still had the same experience on here. So anyone coming up to this device, or people that want to move into the computer, it offers sheer speed with your workflow. If we, for instance, just take some samples, I've got a simple kick drum here. I can go to my program edit, I can go to samples, and what I can now do, I can layer my drums so quickly. I can go, okay, here's my sound. I can go bang, 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 bang. I've now got 4 samples layered on that one pad just by turning my controls. Bang, bang, bang. I can now control the volumes of each one of those levels really, really quickly just by touching the control. So when I'm programming my drums, I might want to take this snare and change the sound of it just with my controls. Bring that one down, change the tuning of this one, bring it down. You know, that level of control, there is nobody on the market that can do that.
So you were also going to show how instruments integrate with, you know, the keyboard stuff. Is that something you can? Yeah.
So I can either start a track off with my drums, which a lot of people do, or I can physically start going through my instruments. So I could pull up one of the internal sounds that come with the MPC, which we can just pull up a piano, or I could start going through some of my third-party stuff. So if we just start off let's start off a simple track, 4 bars long, and again, I don't need to look at the screen at all. Go to my next track. So this is one of my third-party plugins that I've just brought in, which is like a real nice kind of up-to-date synth sound. Now what we'll do, we'll layer the drums on top. Now I can start doing my hi-hats, and I've got all my classic MPC modes as well, like 16 levels, so I can take my 16 levels and I'll put my hi-hats on the velocity. 3, 4. Straight down. You know, the workflow is so super fast, and I haven't looked at the computer at all.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So these are just coming in, right?
Yeah, they are shipping now.
And what kind of price are we expecting to see them at in the UK?
$699.
And that comes with, that's the hardware, and that comes with the
software and the whole 8 gig sound library as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and once again, the 8 gig sound library, I did notice that it needed a DVD. Is there any other way of getting in there? Because now a lot of computers ain't got, laptops don't have slots in them anymore.
Yeah, there will be a download direct from the Akai site, but right here, right now, everything's on DVD, shippable with the product.
Andy Mac, thank you very much for coming down.
Pleasure, anytime.